Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh, yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lino Martinez. Today, I would love to welcome Stephanie Rose, owner of Firefly Scout, the guidebook for helping moms grow their glow and find magic in the everyday. I love this sentence. I'm not a mom, but I want to grow my glow. But welcome to the A Little Less Fear podcast, Stephanie. So nice to meet you finally.
I know. It's so wonderful to be here, Dr. Lino.
So this is incredible. Before we talk about growing your glow and your Firefly Scout guidebook and everything to where you're at today, I mean, tell us a little bit about your journey. What brought you to be where you're at today?
Well, I have always been someone who loves personal growth things and knowing more about myself. I took the Myers-Briggs assessment in high school or college, and then I found out my Enneagram, and I was I liked having these frameworks to help give me a little bit more guidance on who I might be, what my strengths might be, and I always just found that fascinating. And so as I became a mom and I did all the things that you're supposed to do with, getting the job, career, marriage, kids, I did all that. And then I was kind of getting oh, well, okay, now what? I was just feeling a little bit lost. And so I really wanted to dive into well, who am I? Especially who am I now? Because
Right.
all of these things change you. Your identities shift and change as you have all of these experiences. And it just was so curious, who am I? What is next and where am I going? And so that became my next mission of okay, how can I know myself better?
Stephanie, how did that happen? How did you ask yourself this question? So you were in these self-help books, personal growth journey, or just basically looking at what the next thing to help yourself grow, and then you just kind of sat by yourself one day and thought, well, what am I doing? I'm lost. Or how did that come to be? How did you ask yourself this question?
Well, it kind of came slowly. There wasn't a big epiphany moment, but as my youngest started getting a little more sleep and I felt a little bit more sane again.
Oh my goodness.
Because sleep deprivation is not a joke. It really is a tough thing to go through. And so I was finally getting more sleep. So I felt stable again. So then I was well, I was literally waking up kind of being well, what now? There's always been that goal, that thing out there of the next step. And then I just didn't quite know. And so just, I had a little bit more time because the kids were 1 and 3 at the time. So have a little bit more breathing room. I was getting back into reading books, which I always love to do, and then getting curious. So it just started slowly, just getting back to the things I like to do. But then with trying to answer the question, okay, well, now what? And that's when I stumbled into The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron and her book. And with an accountability group, it's a 12-week guided journey, and it relies on free journaling. It's her way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'd always done journaling as a diary entry, but her stream of consciousness way of journaling was so freeing. And that I remember the first day I did that on the page was whoa, I cannot believe how much mental and emotional space I feel I have. It's not what I wrote on the page. It's just that I did it.
It was a stream of consciousness journaling?
Yeah, you don't censor yourself. You just
okay. Free flowing.
Right. Yeah, you just keep going, and for 3 pages. And she says to do every day for the 12 weeks. I actually stuck with it pretty well, and it was like we carry so much in our heads, and our minds are not meant to be that kind of system for us. They're meant to like figure things out. They're not meant to hold all of that.
Right.
So getting it out onto the page, even if it wasn't of consequence, it still kind of carries like the same weight in your mind, whether it's like the big things or the little things.
Right.
They're all like things that you carry. So if you can get them out onto the page and just know they're safely put somewhere,
Yeah.
then it like frees up that mental space to actually like maybe put some connections together because it's not so traffic jammed in there.
What kind
And
of
then
traffic jam was in your writings?
it would just be everything, like because then freeing up to like, well, I could actually like write about like how I'm feeling, not just like, oh, the details of what happened in a day, but how I felt about those. And that was another level of like getting more in touch with like my true self and not just from the mind space, but really getting into the heart space. And then with that, then you have a little bit more space to dream and kind of
True.
ponder like, well, what if? Like, okay, this is bothering me. I see I've like written about it several times.
Yeah.
Uh, can I fix it? What could I see it a different way? Can I change the energetic about it? Like, it just helps you kind of see what's still coming back up and face it in a way that isn't like quite so confrontational with yourself and maybe have like a little less fear around it because change is hard. And I think, but we only make it hard when we're afraid. And
Right.
so if we can like have that a little bit more of a curiosity around what we're trying to change and be like, well, what if? How could it be better? How could this actually serve my highest good versus being like, oh no, I'm paralyzed by what's coming. So all of that, like just pouring that out on the page, like I really just felt listened to. Like I came up with the phrase like sometimes only paper will listen because
Oh my goodness, what an incredible line. Sometimes only paper will listen.
yeah,
Stephanie Rose, wow.
because like we're in such a busy world and like not everyone's like listening to you and like you you just need to like get it all out until
Yes.
like that all of that energy has been expended and like paper's patient and it will be there and you can come back to it and like that was just like the most freeing thing to then start to get a better picture of like, well, what, like who am I, what truly like troubles me, like what's holding me back. And then it gave me space to like kind of dream a little bit about, okay, well, what could be next.
So in finding what's troubling you, asking that question, what's troubling me, in this free flow state of writing, in which your paper was your best friend at this point, not being non-judgmental and just being patient with you, you were able to express your feelings, your emotions freely without being judged and with the open arms of paper. And in that state, you were able to see some of the patterns that you had, your pattern, your way of thinking, these cycles of thoughts that kept coming up for you. And you were then able to abstract or be a little more abstract with it and ask yourself questions that were constructive for yourself and your soul development and you yourself as a human being and figuring out what was the next best thing for you. Is this correct?
Yeah, like I was also getting into books like Journey of the Soul and like just like there's got to be like greater meaning like because as you see like these children that you've given birth to and like how they are growing and changing in their interests like they're inherent in them. You just like get so curious about like, well, how is that? And I don't know, there was just so much that was I got so curious about too that it was like my own little science experiment. like like I'm just wondering like there has to be something bigger to life than just going through it. And that was another curiosity that I kept like wondering about like what is the purpose? Why are we here? There has to be reasons that this is happening for us and not to us, like, and like having moments of synchronicity when like you think of someone and then like, oh, they show up, or
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, I wish I had an answer to that, and then it appears. Like
Yeah.
those types of moments, like I just started noticing how much magic there really was just all around us. And it wasn't in the big moments, it was in the little things.
And so the more that you ask these questions, that's when the synchronicities would appear.
Well, like answers would start to come. So, like if you started like wondering about it or writing it through or just like unjamming your head with these like
Yeah.
thoughts that maybe don't matter, later then you would have space for another thought to pop in because you've like cleared the decks of some of the muck. So
Sure.
it was just like things started kind of coming together, and listening to more like personal growth podcasts and reading more books. And it was kind of like in wanting to know like what's next, that was how I was trying to solve for that.
And so what was next for you?
Well, it ended up being like once I got to know myself better and got so curious and had some of these like breakthroughs of with this identity shift of like being a mom and having a career and a wife and a homeowner and like all the things that you are in life. And like I realized like other women needed help with this.
Yeah,
Like we don't want to keep feeling stuck and that like life isn't enough, and that like,
that's for sure.
and I didn't want to feel like this was it. And so that's when I realized like this could be something. And I hadn't ever thought of myself as someone who was like, oh, I'm going to start a business. But then I couldn't not. Like once the thought got into like my heart space, it was
Yeah.
like it wouldn't let me go. And so that's where it came to be. And I started trying to capture the magic of what I had done
Mhm.
to figure out my journey to share it with other people. And that's where the Illumination Kit came to be.
So the thought that wouldn't let you go, that was in your heart space, was the realization that you needed to create something for mothers.
Yeah, like I want people to know their full potential
I
and
love
to
this.
truly like live a life that they love. Like so many people
Oh,
are
yes.
okay with living a life that's fine. And
Right.
I want us to be so far from fine that it's like a dot to everyone. Because if we're all far from fine in our like highest expression of being, the world will be a better place. Because by knowing ourselves better, there'll be less conflict, there'll be more peace, there'll be more understanding, there'll be more love. Like, I mean, ultimately, that's like my goal is for like world peace
Right.
because of like this self awareness. But it starts from within.
And it definitely starts from within. Living your life to full potential and going away from being just fine. There's a lot of people that are just fine and they live their whole life with just feeling fine. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that people have steered away from their full potential? Is it because they just simply don't know that the full potential exists?
I mean, there are certainly some times that like circumstances, like you are really concerned with like your day to day survival. And that is an unfortunate fact in the
Right.
world. But there are plenty of people that are just scared. They're scared of what will happen if they actually dared to dream, if they took a step in that direction, because
Right.
of what might someone say about them. Would some of their like psychological or physical safety change because they started changing? And so it's like people are like, I guess fine's okay, like because it's safe, but it's not always fulfilling.
Right.
And like, I'm not saying I have figured it all out yet, but I know that I'm on the way to it, and I'm not going to, keep settling for fine.
Right. And that's what fine is. Fine is settling, correct? I mean, that's how I'm feeling it, at least. Kind of,
It
right?
kind of, it's it's just accepting, like accepting what is, and not really taking responsibility for what's going on in your life. And
That's
that's
true.
really more like it's happening to you and not like for you. You're not seeing that greater meaning in it. So
So
I don't know.
humans, us as humans, I mean, unless you become aware of it, there's a responsibility to really take charge of our life and see how the circumstances around us are working in our favor and really kind of just start to shift our reality into really our own personal, I guess, growth.
Yeah, like we have agency in our life. And some people use that to do nothing. But you can use it to make just even small shifts in how you show up and like the energetic that you show up in. And that has ripple effects out to
It
everyone
does.
that you meet.
Yeah, it definitely does have ripple effects. And that's how we raise the vibration with people around us. You get to
Yeah,
know
like once you
yourself.
start to like see that in your interactions, like you can't unsee it. Like, I mean, there are moments that I yell at the kids, like we are human. Like we're all still like trying to get through this human experience. But
Right.
like that moment you like yell and like it changes the vibration of the room and
It
like
does.
it like people shut down. They don't want
Oh
to
yeah,
like
they close off.
hear what you have to say anymore. Like they're in that fight or flight mode. But when you can approach it with love and understanding, or like, or even when it's like when you're apologizing, that like people know when you're apologizing for real and when you're just saying it. And so it's
Right.
coming back in and like raising that vibration again and tuning back into love. Like that's like the universe's highest language.
It
So
really is.
the more time we can spend there, and it's not just loving other people, it's loving ourselves and loving what we do and how we show up in the world.
Do you feel that living your fullest potential equates to love?
I guess. Yeah.
What is a full potential to you? What does that mean for you?
I think it is understanding all of the ways that you are designed to show up in this world, like all of the switches that were flipped that made you you,
Yeah.
and kind of like knowing how to use each one to its fullest potential. And that kind of like as we do, there's like a harmonic that gets achieved, and then it just like elevates so much further. But when we're in like dissonance with ourselves and we don't like act out from our values, and like we know that, like we know when we're not acting from our values, but our minds try to tell, like rationalize it, say it's okay, but our heart's like
Yeah.
and when
What
we're
if
out of,
Stephanie, what if someone's not aware of that though? How can someone get that fine tunement into figuring out when something doesn't feel right or is not resonating with them? Because a lot of people are in this flight and fight, kind of just doing go, go, go. How can somebody tune in and see, hold on a minute, this doesn't feel right? What does that tiny change feel like for somebody?
starts with noticing, like, and that's where like journaling or taking or walk or anything that gives you like some space, to give you some space from yourself to
Yeah.
kind of like observe, and like maybe it's not in the moment, but to kind of feel like you're observing your life a little bit and being like,
Right.
oh, that
Yeah.
that wasn't me. I i maybe wish I said something else, or like that felt really uncomfortable even though I acted this way. So it just takes that little bit of pause and noticing things about yourself and collecting those moments. And if you have to make a list, then do that. Like whatever it takes to like
Mm.
just start collecting little bits of evidence. And then when you have enough of those dots, then you can like kind of piece them together and maybe tell a different story about them.
Yeah. I love how you said that, observing your life. Not too many people are sitting there observing their life, kind of getting that bird's eye view, looking down and looking at your actions. Do your actions match what you feel, what you're saying, what you're thinking? And that's really important, matching it all up, because that's when you're talking about dissonance, you're not I mean, you're in complete dissonance when things aren't matching up. And if things aren't matching up, you're not being truthful and you're not being authentic, and that's going to show in every aspect of your life.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it starts with, what are your values? Like we all say, like, oh, the generic ones, but like that's where in this kit, like did that. I sat down and like, what do I value? What matters to me? And how can I like have that show up more in my life? How can I be more authentic to that? Because then I feel more like myself, because that's something like you can't explain it. You just know that that feels right to you. And everyone has different values. So it's okay that they're different, but it's just finding like that specific nuance of them that aligns most with you, and then start aligning your actions with that. And like everything you think and say too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So, do you feel right now that you are at your full potential, or that you're close to it, or that you're in alignment with it?
I feel that I'm on the path,
Excellent.
and I've had glimpses of what my full potential is,
Beautiful.
and it is scary.
Oh,
like like it's like I have that appreciation that I have seen the glimpses of it, to like if you're on in a dark forest and like you see a trail marker and you're like, oh thank goodness, like I'm on the trail.
yeah.
But then also it's like I'm not quite ready to be there yet, because I know I have a lot more to learn. So I feel very assured that I'm doing what I'm meant to do, but I still have to figure out a lot of things to get all the way there.
Yeah,
But knowing it's the journey, it is not about getting there.
exactly.
It's these experiences along the way that are really going to shape it and be what's most meaningful versus like the end destination.
Right, because we're here for the journey, not for the end destination. Otherwise, we
Yeah,
would just be snapping our finger and be like, "I'm going to Hawaii." Snap your finger in Hawaii. Hey, what happened to the road trip and packing my bags and all the other stuff that goes on in between? All the people I could have met. What's going on? People love the journey, and that's actually what.
exactly.
Yeah, I love journeys. So, hey, tell us about growing your glow and how you guide women to grow your glow. First off, what is glow? What does it mean to glow?
Glow is that energy that comes from your heart space.
I love that.
Like, you know, when someone like walks in a room and they just have a vibe and an energy, you can just like, they've shown up.
Yeah,
Like we all
yeah,
have that. Uh, but your glow is just that energetic that comes from you and like who you truly are. And it's like your magnetism. So like when people
yes.
are tuned in to your glow, like they can't help but be attracted to it and like
Right.
drawing people in. And so some people lose that, or it's dimmed because of circumstances in their life that have maybe made them not feel proud of who they are, or maybe they weren't taught to have it grow into its fullest potential. So it is just this energy in your heart space that you can trust to lead you to whatever serves you in your journey.
Trust your heart space so that it leads you to wherever you're going on your journey.
Yeah.
And so you created a guidebook for helping moms grow their glow and find their internal magic.
Yep.
Tell us about
It's
this
like,
guidebook. How did it come into fruition?
well, it was from my journey of like trying to figure out like, well, what's next in life. And as I alluded to, like it started with like trying to get to know who I was. And so it started with journaling and moving my body a little bit more, like getting out for a walk, or just not working out, but moving my body in a way that I enjoyed. So sometimes I was like kitchen dancing or walking or just being silly with the kids, like
Yes.
just something that was like
Generating
more
energy.
freeing. Yeah, like kind of moves that like life energy around a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, and then like I started making lists of like, what do I like and not like? What do I want more and less of in my life? Like if I'm
Ooh, I
trying to
love that.
shape this way forward, what do I want it to look like? And not limiting it to like physical specific things, but just like nuances or feelings or like what are quirky little things that just are like glitter in your life that you want more of, but aren't anything big, but just add a little bit of like sparkle to your day. And so like it was making those lists and knowing my values and then seeing how they'd show up and like trying to get them like more into my life, and then creating a vision from that. Like, okay, like I have some of this information. What does that look like together? Like how does that like form a picture? And I know people make like vision boards,
Right.
and it is that, but it was also trying to be more like an emotional vision board. Like you want to have like an emotional attachment to where it's going
Yes.
because it's lighting up this
The heart
space.
center. Yes.
And it's like you can like feel that connection getting to it.
Right.
And then encouraging you to like have some time to get quiet and get away from some distractions. And even if it's just, a little bit each day, like trying to turn it down a little bit, like how many notifications and pings and, you know,
Oh yeah.
requests for your attention in each day. So like, how can you protect that a little bit better? And as an empath and a highly sensitive person and an Enneagram 9, like I have high needs for solitude
Yeah.
to like just be in my own energy.
And to recharge.
And that's like how I recharge. And so knowing that and owning that and being more unapologetic of like, this is a need I have, like to be my best self, I
Yeah.
need these things.
Right.
And then like just knowing like I have all these tools and then using that to go from there and like kind of start living the journey. And you're ever evolving. It's like a nautilus shell. Like as you go back
Exactly.
around, you're not quite back in that same place. You're actually at a higher vibration. Like your evolution or your evolution like brings you around, but at a higher plane. So like these are tools
Absolutely.
I come back to all the time, like to check in or if I feel out of like out of resonance with myself, like what's going on? Like I'm kind of in a moment now and I'm like, well, I haven't been journaling as much. And I know that is something that helps me. And
Yeah.
I've not been giving myself that. So working on building that practice back in.
Hey Stephanie, what about people that don't like to journal?
Well, there are other ways that I do it too. So like I feel it's most effective when you write it, just that mind body connection.
Yeah.
But another thing that I do is I take a daily walk. I've been doing it for 4 years. And it's my promise to myself that I'll show up for myself each day. And so sometimes on those walks, it is a time where I just need to like talk things out. So I will like audio journal to myself, like on my
I love
walks.
that.
And so like if someone's worried about like, like you're talking to yourself in your walk, like, well, if anyone sees you, they're not going to know. Like
Right.
put in your earbuds. They're just going to think you're on the phone or just
Exactly.
don't talk when you pass someone, I guess. But um, that can be really helpful too, because if you're feeling stuck about something or your answer is always like, I don't know. Part of it is like you probably do know, but maybe you're a little bit scared to
Oh yeah.
say it or have it be like written out. So I'll take a walk and with the intention as I move my body, it frees up those thoughts. Like you kind of get preoccupied in just like that meditative walking. And you can just let the thoughts pour out of your mouth. And sometimes I'll record it if I know that there'll be an answer that I want, like at the end of that.
Yeah.
And other times it's just, I just need to be walking right now and talking my thoughts out and exploring why I feel stuck. Why do I tell myself I don't know? And
They're
just see
excellent
what
tips.
happens.
I love walking myself. I love it. So tell us a little bit more about your guidebook. What's in it?
Well, I just like that was the process that's in it. So it's broken out into 4 different sections so that you have like one element of that to focus on over about a week or so. And it's a physical guidebook because there's nothing that replaces that, like having something you can hold on to and come back to. So it gets, you purchase it and it gets mailed to you. And then each week or two, um, as an added bonus, like I handwrite a card of encouragement that will just kind of help nudge you along so that you like don't just get it and forget it. Like you'll keep picking it up, and then when it comes time to revisit it, like you'll see it on your shelf, and you, it'll catch your eye for that reason of like, I think it's time to restart that journey again. And that's why it's so important to have something that's like visible and like that connection from like me to you, like for your journey, like I'm cheering you on, like I've been there and I know how important it is to get messages from,
You
on the road.
custom
Like,
make encouraging messages for your clients?
yeah, for everyone who buys the
For
guidebook,
everyone that buys the guidebook? That's incredible.
yeah,
And that uplifts yourself too. You're encouraging them and it encourages you to encourage them.
yes, like snail mail is one of my love
What?
languages. So
Did you
it's
say
like,
snail mail?
yeah.
I love that. It's incredible. And so how do you feel that people, or have you been getting, what kind of responses are you getting from the guidebook?
Um, I think people love like just knowing that like it's from a personal journey. Like it's not something that, I made up. Um, but
True,
it's like
true.
from an actual experience that I went through. And that, you know, I'm there with them. Like I have that perspective to offer and encourage. And I know one of my talents is I have a way with words. So like it people really do feel encouraged through the notes that I send and just through the journey that they're taking.
Is the guidebook written in a way that's specific to mothers, or can anybody benefit from your guidebook?
I'd say anyone, who's ready or willing to take that journey. Like
Sure.
as a mom, like it's from my experience, but it doesn't explicitly say like it's not explicitly for mothers.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. That's incredible. And how can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners get your guidebook?
It is available at fireflyscout.com in my shop.
Firefly Scout. How'd you come up with that name? I love it. Firefly Scout.
Um, it was knowing that I wanted something that portrayed the magic of days that were simpler, like being a child and chasing fireflies, and that we're chasing the light, but we're seeking and we're being like we're being a seeker, but um, and to not be so afraid to chase into the unknown. Because if you're chasing fireflies, if you use that as like a life analogy, like you're running through the dark, but you're so excited about catching this light, this glow,
I
that you
love
don't
this.
worry about the darkness that could normally make you so afraid.
I love that. And so many people don't chase that light because they're used to being in that darkness. And a lot of people feel that the darkness is their life. And a lot of people feel that that's life in general.
Yeah, and but the things that will motivate you to do to go chase that spark, to go chase that light, like it gets you moving. So that's how it all came to be.
Hey, so what keeps you going?
Like just knowing that my journey is not done yet, like that there's always something to know and unpack and like get to know, like because that journey is like the Nautilus shell, like it's kind of like never ending and always expanding. So each time is like a little bit more of a stretch. There's still so many mysteries of this world that we don't understand yet. And I don't know, I'm just so amazed by it. That's like you got to keep that sense of wonder about you and just being curious. And so that's what drives me. Like I follow so many rabbit holes of interest in my life.
Oh yeah, stay curious. Are these also things that you tell your kids?
Yeah, like we do a hybrid homeschool, so it allows us a little bit more flexibility to explore what they are really interested in and uh, just spend like a bit more time in nature and follow their interests and see where that takes them.
Do you feel that creating this guidebook has helped you become a little bit more flexible with your kids and allowing them to become true and authentic to themselves? Or are
It
there
has definitely
challenges in
opened me
between?
up to seeing like all of the different ways that they can be their true selves and to really listen to what they're saying. Like we are born with such innate wisdom that the world tries to shut down. And as adults, when we like finally come back around, we're like, oh, like it was that experience when I was a kid that actually made me think I could never do that, or something someone said or made me feel like. And so to help them, like give them those tools now and to approach life more in that way, like they'll be so much further ahead. Like, not to say
Definitely.
that we are perfect parents or that we are
Sure,
not
sure.
scarring them in some way, but
Right.
uh, just having that self-awareness of knowing like they know things about themselves and to not be like, well, I'm the grown up, so I know better. Like
Yeah.
to let them stand up for themselves and articulate what they really feel and what how best to approach a situation for them.
In doing this now in your life, have you been able to reflect what life could have been like for you had you had these type of tools as a kid?
Oh yeah, like I've had several epiphanies of like, oh, if I could have had that sliver of self-awareness in that situation, like uh, that would have reframed everything. Like I wouldn't have spent time wallowing about that or felt being spending time being so confused. But I also know it's part of the life experience.
Yes,
So again, it's something that happened for me, not to me,
exactly.
but giving kids and other people like these tools maybe a little bit earlier in life, then their journey can actually go further than mine will be able to.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. This is incredible. Firefly Scout, I love this. I feel like saluting the Firefly Scout. Thank you so much for for sharing your incredible wisdom and talking about how your personal growth is really amazing on where you're at today and how you're helping people grow, not just mothers, but just people in general by following their own internal light and knowing that we all glow individually. We all have a purpose for our glow and not dimming ourselves and being okay with shining bright. Thank you for shining bright. Thank you for sharing all of your information on A Little Less Fear podcast. Where can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners get a hold of you if they need to get a hold of you?
I have a ton of resources on my website at
Great.
fireflyscout.com. And I show up in my newsletter where I love to drop a little bit of magic in your inbox.
Yeah, I
And,
love that.
and I'm working on my relationship with socials. So
Excellent.
um, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn under Firefly Scout.
Thank you so much for connecting with me. I look forward to keeping in touch with you. Happy holidays to you and all of your loved ones.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Dr. Lino Show, A Little Less Fear podcast. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can do so by sending me an email at a little less fear at gmail.com or through an inquiry from my website at www.alittlelessfear.com, where you will always find information on where to get my book. You can get my book on Amazon and Amazon paperback version, Kindle or Kindle Unlimited. And I also create incredible visual video poetry for people that are interested in marketing or even just to send a personal note to anybody or somebody that you might love. So yeah, check it out. I love it. Poetry is my passion, one of my other passions, aside from doing what I do right now, which is giving you all the motivation that you need to keep growing, to keep motivating people, motivating yourself, and to keep expanding. I love you all so much. Have a blessed day and take care. Rock on.